عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The Jamaat has designated this night to the memory of our late Marja, Ayatollah Qasim al-Khoei, Ridwanullah alayh, who died 5 years ago. Because his anniversary comes in the month of Safar, he died on 8th of Safar. Therefore, and in the month of Safar, we normally do not commemorate anything but Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Therefore, it was decided that when the first Friday begins with the lectures, we will remember Ayatollah al-Khoei. Now, in order to understand him, there are certain facts which I must reveal so that we understand actually what is the institution which is called Marja'iyat, or what is called Niyabat Amma, general deputization of our Imam Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. We must understand that at the time of our 11th Imam alayhi salam, because he was repeatedly imprisoned by the kings of Banu Abbas, those last 14 years, from 240 to 254, those last 10 years were tumultuous days of upheaval among Abbasi Empire. And there were so many upheavals that they had to leave the capital, Baghdad, and transfer the capital to Samarra. Otherwise, Baghdad used to be the capital. They came to Samarra, and Samarra was made the capital. And if you read in those days, the history, you'll find that there were kings for 1 year, kings for 6 months, and there were kings for 4 days also, being dethroned by the military coup. 4 days, and the 5th day he's out, either killed or banished. So we found that there were so many kings who came and went, and in those days the Turks who had just entered the fold of Islam, some of them even did not know who Ahlul Bayt were. They were the enemies of Ahlul Bayt in a sense that they were told to be the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. Some of them who later on understood what Ahlul Bayt were, they of course became staunch and believers in Shias. At the hand of those Turks, Imam Hassan alayhi salam went so many times to prison. In fact, most of his time was spent in the imprisonment. And his whole life is only 28 years. But in the last days, what Imam alayhi salam did was that he communicated with the public behind the curtain. Very few people know about this. He was there, but a curtain would be there. Imam alayhi salam would speak from behind the curtain. They would ask questions, Imam would answer. Sometimes Imam came out, they would see him. It's not that he was unseen, but he gradually gave the public a habit to understand the meaning of ghaibah. You see, Imam is living, Imam is there, but you cannot sometimes see him. So the last 2 years of our 11th Imam went in this apparent ghaibah, in a sense that people used to come to his house, ask him questions, he would answer, but from behind the curtain. And it was in those early days that there were two things to be prepared for the ummah to come. One was to prepare their minds for ghaibah, and second, to prepare the material which will help the ummah to understand Shari'a after the ghaibah of Imam and during the ghaibah. Although it began from 6th Imam, it took solid form in the days of 10th and 11th Imam. Now, for example, if you ask me of Usul al-Kafi, for example, which is the most famous book. Now, Kulaini lived during the time of 11th Imam and 12th. See, because he died exactly in the year of finishing of Ghaibat al-Sughra, 329. So there is every possibility that he must have seen our 11th Imam, and he must have also seen the Ghaibah. He must have seen Imam alayhi salam in the days childhood before he went into Ghaibat al-Sughra. So some of these ulama, for example, Usul al-Kafi today, which we have, consists of all the ahadith which were reported, compiled over 20 years of labor, not 1 or 2 years. 20 years of labor, traveling from here and there, trying to find as many ahadith as possible and compile them and present them before the public so that up to the day of Qiyamah, we have something called Usul Kafi. Now, Ahlul Sunnah brothers, they have got 6 books which are called authentic books. 2 of them are called Sihah, 4 of them are called Sunan. Right? Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Ibn Majah, Sunan Nasa'i, Sunan Ibn Dawood. 4 Sunan and 2 Sihah. Put all the ahadith together. 4 Sunan and 2 Sihah. Add up all the ahadith, they are less than Usul al-Kafi. That means man has taken so much trouble and labor that the ahadith in Usul al-Kafi is 4,000 more than all the other ahadith put together in Sunan. This proves that there was immense labor, right? When Ghaibat took place, there was enough material, and there is, for the ulama to understand what Quran Majid wants to tell us, and what is the interpretation of hadith, and what are the guidelines on fiqh. And that is a labor which continued. In our community today, because when I talk of history, we talk of applicability of history today. We have taken it for granted that we were born for taqleed and making money and earning khums and send it to the mujtahid and then enter Jannat without hisab. That is the type of thinking that we have. That mujtahid is only an Iraqi or Irani. Where mujtahid today and for the last several centuries have been from Iraq and Iran because they are the worked for it. If you had worked for it, you would have got it. We did not work for it, we didn't care for it. The people of Iraq and Iran, they put their blood in it. They sacrificed their lives. That is why we have mujtahideen from Iraq and Iran. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designated that only Irani can become an alim mujtahid, only Iraqi can become. Today, as I am talking to you, there is one Ayatollah who is Ayatollah al-Uzama in Najaf, who is a Pakistani. His name is Sheikh Muhammad Bashir. He is an Ayatollah, he is a Muqallad, he has got his Risala. He is a Pakistani and he is still in Najaf Ashraf. He has been there since the days of Ayatollah al-Hakim, Ridwanullah alayh. And Hakim and Khoei both endorsed that he is a mujtahid of highest caliber. He's a Pakistani. But he did not get it because he was a Pakistani. He got it because he worked for it, he labored for it. You see. In our case, it was just like this, that we thought it was, and we are so wise sometimes, that we We say that we do taqleed and then we also object. Why taqleed? Why become slave of someone? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say that you do taqleed only. Open any book of fiqh. The first page is Babu Taqleed. Right? First mas'ala is, first, either be a mujtahid or work according to ihtiyat or do taqleed. It's a third option. First option is be a mujtahid. That we don't want to listen to. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said, do taqleed, then we would have objected that we wanted to become mujtahid. But he says, either you be a mujtahid or work on ihtiyat, that is precautions, or then do taqleed. For mujtahid you require knowledge. For precautions you also require options knowledge. Therefore you have got nothing left but taqleed. And taqleed is a mercy, is a grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save me from the pitfall. Otherwise, who would I follow and who would I listen? And how will I save myself? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that on the day of Qiyamah, a mujtahid will come. A mujtahid will not be left out. There is no Jannat be hisab. People think it is going to be bila hisab, just walk in singing. It will not be like that. Even mujtahid has got to give an account. And the Prophet said, when the mujtahid will be brought before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will be told, you gave this fatwa? He said, yes. He will say yes. فَإِذَا أَصَابَ فَلَهُ أَجْرَانِ. If he has given a correct fatwa, after working so hard, and after pondering over all the dalil, if he has given correct fatwa according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, falahu ajran, he will be given double reward. Wa in akhta'a falahu ajr. And if he has made a mistake, he will be given a single reward. Because the reward is single, not because he has made a mistake, but because the mistake is done sincerely after having put in all the effort. Not like the one who comes here on mimbar and says, this is my fatwa. He knows nothing. Fatwa must be backed by some knowledge, and that knowledge must be incisive. You just don't go on giving fatwa to please people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, on the day of Qiyamah, I will hold those people who gave the fatwa by saying, هَذَا حَلَالٌ وَهَذَا حَرَامٌ. They say this is halal and this is haram without having any knowledge. Fine. And the problem is, my friends, I have studied child psychology and I am giving fatwa in medicine. I have studied engineering and I am giving fatwa on matters which are not related. I have studied Islamic history and I am giving fatwa on fiqh. Two totally different things. And the foolish are the people who ask fiqh to a person who knows only Islamic history. Both of them are fools. For who is an alim? An alim is one who knows fiqh. Go and ask him fiqh. But he does not know fiqh. He is just a proficient of some university who knows history or literature. You are asking him fiqh. So the mistake lies on both sides. And it so happened that in Baghdad alone, there was there during Buwahid Empire when the Abbasids were there, but Abbasids are weakened. And there was a time when there was a Buwahid Empire in Iraq who were all Shias. A chair was established for the first time for Shia under Sheikh al-Taifa, Sheikh Tusi alayhi rahmah. But as there were political upheavals, his chair was burnt twice and his library was burnt once. But the man was at that time 26 years of age he did not lose hope. He left Baghdad for Najaf. Now, in these days, we just travel like this to Najaf. Those were the days where people really had to travel with all the problems. And to come to Najaf, which was not densely populated. The only attractive thing in Najaf was the grave of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And even in those days, there was no haram the way we are seeing now. There was a grave. That's all. When he arrived in Najaf, he writes in his own life that it was so disappointing that Baghdad was in a complete contrast and there were very few people who knew me. But I saw about 30 to 40 students sitting around the grave of Ali ibn Abi Talib studying. So I started my college there. There was no such building, just sitting on the chair. And people gradually gathered. All the books which have been written by Tusi alayhi rahmah were written during his young age. After 26, we don't find a single book written by him because he had no time. Tahdhib, Istibsar, all these famous books of his were written while he was 26. By 26, when he came to Najaf, there was no time for writing because teaching. There came a time when nearly 600 mujtahids studied under his hand and he used to teach them. And for 300 years, from 5th Hijrah up to the beginning of 8th Hijrah, for 300 years, the fatwa of Tusi alayhi rahmah were adhered to by all the ulama. It's just like in the physics, they say, for 300 years, Sir Isaac Newton was the order of the day, till Einstein appeared. Mujtahideen who came, they went on supporting the fatwas of Tusi alayhi rahmah. Of course, they added to it, but the fatwa remained. Till gradually the ilm developed in the days of Allama Hilli, and some thinking came in more and more, and some more and more knowledge was applied. And then the fatwa started changing in details, not in principles. That college which he established in the 5th Hijrah, and this is 5th era of Hijrah, this is 15th century. That means how many years? Nearly 1,000 years of that Hawza, which is called Hawza of Najaf Ashraf. There has been a continuity. People born in Qom, people born everywhere in India, in Africa, wherever, they studied at home. For further studies, they always went to Najaf. Why? Was there a college there? No. Najaf did not have that system which we have in other parts of the world. Nor did it have a system of Al-Azhar University. No. The madrasas in Najaf meant hostels. Teaching was done by the ulama either at home or in the mosques. Madrasa Hindi, Masjid Hindi. Masjid Hindi is a mosque, still there. Agha Hakim Ridwanullah alayhi used to teach there. So student in the morning goes to Masjid Hindi to get dars from Ayatollah Hakim. Or he goes to his teacher who is at home. Goes to his house, given time, early in the morning at 8 o'clock, or sometimes even after namaz, for 1 or 2 hours, gets his lessons, comes back for his breakfast, goes to another alim for another lesson, different ulama for different lessons, finishes his work. That's how it is. In the evening he rests. At night they sit for discussion among the students themselves, which is called mudhakira. The most important part of this whole system was that there was no exam. That means a man studied for the sake of studying, not for the sake of passing examination. If he failed, he failed. If he passed, he passed. But he passed in his own estimation. The teacher would know that this boy is useless and this boy is really some brilliant boy. That is a teacher's assessment. But there was no exam and there still has been no exam. No exam. You know whether you understand or not. From the question you ask, the mujtahid evaluates that this donkey has come in. And he gradually tells him, go back to study the beginnings and preliminaries before you come and sit in this class. You see? And that is how Najaf Ashraf, that collegiate of Najaf Ashraf has survived this way till today. There may be only 200 students or 1,000 students today, but this Hausa is still there. Whether you go and study from Ayatollah Sistani or Sheikh Gharawi or Sa'id al-Hakim or Muhyiddin al-Ghuraifi or whoever you go, you study from, you will study the same thing. That Hausa then was replicated and duplicated in Qom. Qom today has 40,000 students. That is the Hausa which was first established in Qom years ago, disintegrated. It went to Isfahan, disintegrated, came to Najaf, continued, and then Qom was re-established. So today we have Qom as a parallel of Najaf Ashraf. In fact, it is Rahma that Najaf nearly disintegrated, Qom remained. As it went on and on, over the years, some of the scholars and mujtahids who came out of Najaf Ashraf have been of the quality unmatched and unequaled in the world. Some of the ulama had a habit of traveling. They went up to Egypt to meet their counterparts in Al-Azhar. And we have got so many records and reports here, like from Dr. Taha Hussain and others, who were the only ulama we have found are the ulama of Najaf. When Abdul Karim Zanjani came there, he kissed his hand and he said, I have never kissed the hand of an alim because I don't consider them as ulama. فَأَوَّلُ عَالِمٍ وُجِدَ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ. The first alim that I have seen in Islam is you. And they used to ask them, who teaches you? And they would say, we are just small students. If you want to meet, come and meet our teachers in Najaf. Well, in fiqh, people have got this, that it's only fiqh or usul al-fiqh. I say, all right, let us say only fiqh, usul al-fiqh. Just try. Just try to sit one day and hear to the lesson on usul al-fiqh and try to understand and see how much of mind has got to be applied. Have you tried? Where for 6 months, you just go poring over 6 pages of a book without being able to advance further. You're all the time thinking what he means, the depth and profundity, so that I may be able to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran says and what the Prophet said. We think it is just a joke. Then there are ulama of different types. There are philosophers, there are theologians. We have created best of ulama al-Hereafter, that is astrologers. We have got astronomers like Shahrastani, Hibatuddin, and we have got mufassirin, muhaddithin, and so many ulama of various caliber, all produced from Najaf. Then they came and served in their own countries. This community of ours, if it really wants to survive in religion, economically you might survive, or in absorption, because now there's a new term which has come in, which is called globalization. Do you know that? This new term has already entered the thinking of our the whole community, human community. It is called globalization. That means one culture for the whole globe. That globalization will come how? Through CNN, through satellite TVs, and all that, so that the whole world, up to jungle of Zaire and the remote countries of Thailand and Cambodia, and everywhere they will be governed by one culture, the culture of America, globalization. So we may survive in globalization by becoming Anglo Khojas or whatever you call it, or America Khojas or whatever. When the women will have no parda, when the men will have no hijab, nothing of the sort, everybody will be free to act the way he likes, because there is a globalization, something which we can't confront. We don't have anything. Globe is too big, we don't have even a small globe. You see, we don't want to do anything. We just want that there must be chakula, that's all. We don't want to do anything. If you ask for anyone, any person, say that we are able to get one radio wavelength or band where we can broadcast Islam 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It is costing only this much. Nobody is going to pay for it. We are getting TV stations where the program will be paid for, but we have to prepare and pay say about 10, 12,000 pounds. A book has come out which is very good. Please buy for so many pounds. Mafat ho to aapko. If there is free, give me 2. You see, no one comes out to say that give me 1 and take the money for 3, so that if there is anyone who cannot pay, may also benefit from this. Our values are different, and therefore it will subsist as long as Allah wants. But it cannot subsist unless the community has the ulama of its own. Ulama, trained by madrasas, not by the universities. I am not against the universities, but I am totally against Islam being taught by kuffar. I say it must be taught by ulama first, then go to kuffar and also learn their methodology and compare. But you can't be taught Islam by a kafir. A kafir is never your friend. He will sow the doubts in your minds while he goes on instructing. Learn from our side first, be strong, and then go and study. I have got no objection to it. It started till Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this ummah an alim whose name was Sheikh Murtaza Ansari, who was born in 1214. Hijrah, that means nearly 104 years, 204 years ago. He was born in this fool. Young man, as he grew up, first he started learning in this fool, and then within Iran, and then he came to Karbala. Of course, he went to Najaf, and again he returned. This gifted alim is the father of the new science which is called Ilm Usul al-Fiqh, according to rationalization. He is the father. That is the reason why he is called Khatimul Fuqaha, means the end of the Fuqaha. Just like we say the Payghambar is the Khatimul Nabiyyin. He is supposed to be the one who has finished every work. By introducing so many new things, that today on his 2 books, Al-Makasib and Al-Rasail, we have more than 200 commentaries by great mujtahids, each trying to explain what he is trying to say. But what is so striking about these people is there are 3 things. 1, capability of riyasat, that means leadership. At the same time, fear of Allah, taqwa. At the same time, zuhd, means detached from this worldly desire. These 3 things are very important, my friend. When Agha Buruj Jardi was still not very known, not very well known, he had just come as a mujtahid in 1945. He had an operation for his hernia, and that time he did his another that if I'm cured, I'll go for ziyarat to Imam Rida alayhi salam. And while he was preparing to go, he said, "Oh people, will somebody accompany me?" from his students. The students were thinking that Agha Burujadi, if he goes from here to Tehran, from Tehran to Mashhad, he will not be received the way a marja should be received, because still not very well known. So they were trying to tell him, inshallah, we'll go. Agha, it is winter, and winter of Khurasan is severe. When it was summer, they say, Agha, it is summer. So one day Agha said, now what's happening? It is summer, it is winter, it is this, it is that. I have made another and I have to finish that another and fulfill it. Now this time I am going. Whether you accompany me or not, I am going alone. So one of the closest students said, Agha, the matter is that still you are not that famous, because these are the beginning days, the days in which you are still not very well known. We would like you to go in such a way that the whole railway station is full of people to receive you. Agha said, oh, so that is the reason why you have been delaying my going to Mashhad? Do you think I am a mushrik? That Allah who gave me birth, He gave me knowledge and capability of learning. He gave me ilm. Now I am going to make the accolade and the welcome of the people as His sharik. Honor is that which Allah gives you, not the people. I don't care whether somebody appears to say Assalamu alaikum or does not. I am going. What are you teaching me? Are you teaching me to do shirk at this age of 70? You see? So there has got to be detachment from the world. Zuhd, as it is called. Not caring about desire. They don't care whether this fatwa will please or will displease. If the fatwa is given, that's all. Because that is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's got to be taqwa. Ayatollah Shaheed Ansari, Murtada Ansari, died in, say, about 1267. I remember this much, that he died at the age of 67. So 67 plus 14, 81 maybe. Hijrah. In 1317, al-Khoei is born. About 50 years after. And al-Khoei started the same school which Sheikh Murtada Ansari had started. Rational and aqli school of usul al-fiqh. And in his own book he writes that I used to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, I don't want to be a marja. I want to be a jurist and a faqih so that the ummah may be guided. I don't want this responsibility. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destined for him that this responsibility came to him late in life, but the longest. He was our marja for 22 years. Now, I remember in Najaf Ashraf I used to go to his class just to sit and tabarruk. Not that I was a student. He used to give his lecture after namaz Isha. Sit on the mimbar, and he would not allow the mic in the beginning. He would not. The hall was as long as this, perhaps longer than this. And he would not allow the use of mic. He said, those who are interested, come closer. I don't know what he would have done with Khojas, but the Arabs at least listened to him. They came closer. He said, those interested, please come here. Those not interested, sit wherever you like. So we used to find mujtahideen sitting around the member to listen, because he spoke. Of course, his voice could only reach to a certain distance. He spoke in pure classical Arabic, without mic, and did not allow the use of tape recorders. Use your minds, and if you can't remember, write. And if you can't understand, ask. Now the world has changed, my friends. Well, I said there are 40,000 students in Qum. 10,000 of them don't go to any alim. They just take the tapes at home and listen to the tapes. Agha could foresee this, that there will be no guide and no teacher People will take tapes and start learning. You can't learn from a tape. You must have a guide and a teacher. Gradually they persuaded, said, Agha, now there are so many students, allow us the mic. So he allowed mic. One mic was kept and he started. And in that hall, there was no clock. And Agha did not have a watch in his hand. He had one, of course, in his pocket. But I marked, not on once, but 2 occasions, that he sat at about 7:30 p.m. Baghdad time, Najaf time, and he came down at 8 o'clock, not a minute here, not a minute there. Half an hour's address on fiqh. That lesson would go for 7 years. One course, how many? 7 years. For the mujtahideen to complete from Babul Tahara up to Babul Irth and everything. 7 years. And such 7 years, al-Khoei has conducted 7 times. So how many years now? 49 years. In 49 years, thousands of mujtahideen were qualified under the tutelage of Ayatollah Qasim. Today we go to every part of the world, you'll find a mujtahideen taking pride. I have been a student of al-Khoei. I have been a student of al-Khoei because they have attended the class. Of course, all of them are not of the same caliber, but they are there who take pride in being the student of Sayyid al-Khoei. Sayyid al-Khoei, Ridwanullah alayh, had a system of deduction. He used to say that I will follow the regulations strictly and my deduction and inferences will be from the available sources. Try to understand this. If any source is not available, I will not rule based on precedents. I will not rule on the consensus of the people gone by, believing that they might have seen some source somewhere. No. The source must be available before me. And therefore he used to rule according to the sources available, never relying upon the consensus of the past. And that's the reason why we find in some places he deferred, because he said, I don't see any source anywhere. In spite of that, every morning at 9 o'clock, before he started meeting the people, between 9 and 9:30, the mujtahideen of caliber used to come and sit with him and discuss his fatwa. And there used to be ulama who used to come and say, Agha, you have taken that particular hadith into consideration? Have you taken that particular word into consideration? What is the connotation? And Agha would answer. And it was so open-minded discussion that Ayatollah on 2 occasions in his life has changed his fatwa. Based on the discussion, he said, yes, I realize there has been an error. Why he does it? Because it is not for the sake of worldly honor. It is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us understand our mujtahideen and pay them the credit which is due. And let us understand that we also have got to put in some sacrifice by way of studies and by way of encouraging those who study and those who come to us after having studied and impart their knowledge. For this is the reason why today this deen is alive. We have so many ulama or so many maraji' and so many hawzat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the soul of Ayatollah al-Khoei with maghfirah. May he grant him reward for all the efforts that he put in, for all the books that he wrote, for all the teachers and the students whom he trained, for all the ulama. We may recite Fatiha for the soul of Ayatollah al-Khoei. Fatiha. وعجل فرجهم